Good morning, friends and family. Hope you all are well out there in YouTube land. I'd like to report on something this morning that I should have reported earlier, but I didn't have the supporting evidence to be able to report it with any confidence at that time. But what I want to show you right now is just a little clip from my previous video. It has begun. 2019 nCoV coronavirus enters the U.S. What to know and what to do now. And if you haven't watched this video yet, I would suggest you do, because it's loaded with information on this coronavirus. But let me play this right now. So y'all, why is this so important tonight? That, I had the mask on and all that. Well, what we're talking about is a novel coronavirus. And why is that significant? Well, that's the same type of virus as the SARS virus that came out in 2002. That had 8,000 reported cases and over 800 confirmed deaths. It's also the same as the MERS virus, also a coronavirus that came out in 2012. Now, it had less reported cases, somewhere around 3,000, but the mortality rate was much higher, with a mortality being deaths of 858 people. And even with the H1N1 virus, which was an influenza virus that broke out in 2009, which reportedly by the CDC caused 248,000 deaths. All of these three viruses, at no point in time did any country initiate a full lockdown quarantine. Except here it is today, the 24th of January, and China has done just that. Not only in Wuhan, where the coronavirus outbreak started, that being ground zero, supposedly, at a fish market. And what the Chinese government is saying is it initiated from either snakes or bats that were being sold there for human consumption. But there's another report out there that in Wuhan is also one of the Chinese government's largest laboratories for developing and studying viruses. And what has come out has been that there's a possibility that this new 2019 coronavirus could have possibly leaked out from that laboratory installation. Now, what's so important? And is that true? Well, I don't know. But this is one thing I know. Like I said, no time during the SARS outbreak, the MERS virus outbreak, or even the H1N1 influenza outbreak, did China or any other country initiate a full lockdown. Nothing and no one in, and nothing and no one out of the cities. And as of tonight, not only Wuhan, but 11 other surrounding cities, with reportedly over 30 million people, are in full lockdown quarantine. Another significant thing to understand is the first reported case was back in mid-December in Wuhan. This is just January the 24th. And China has already initiated a lockdown quarantine to stop the spread of this virus. That's unprecedented in modern history, or in any history of virus containment to date. So that makes me wonder here again what China's not telling us. So y'all, as you just heard, I had a suspicion, and I did have one report at the time I put that video together of there being a possibility that this new Wuhan coronavirus, now known as the 2019 nCoV coronavirus, could have possibly escaped from a virological lab located in Wuhan, China, that I thought that was necessary to reinforce that suspicion. But let's go back in time and take a look at the timeline and what brought me to that belief and what has strengthened it further today, here Sunday, the 26th of January. Now, I started following this new coronavirus on January the 22nd. January the 22nd was on a Wednesday. There were 554 reported cases, all of which were in Wuhan, China, which now we know was the epicenter of this new coronavirus. On January the 23rd, there were 644 reported cases, but now 18 confirmed deaths. It was on January the 23rd that China went ahead and made the decision to impose a full lockdown quarantine on Wuhan, China. Now, folks, this is no small city. This is one of China's mega cities with an estimated population of 11 million people. To put that in perspective, Los Angeles, California has an estimated population of 4.1 million. Los Angeles County has an estimated population of 10.9 million. That'll let you know the size that we're talking here. And as I said previously in the video, never before in modern history has any government imposed a full lockdown quarantine on any size city, let alone one the size of Wuhan, China. It's just never happened. It didn't happen during the SARS outbreak of 2002, which had over 8,000 reported cases and 774 confirmed deaths according to the CDC here in the U.S. And it was the SARS outbreak that panicked the world. It didn't happen during the bird flu, nor did it happen during the H1N1 influenza outbreak, which killed over 248,000 people worldwide, according to the CDC. And then again, in 2012, the MERS outbreak, also, no quarantines were ever initiated. But here again, on January the 23rd, China imposes a full lockdown quarantine on Wuhan, China. And I had to think something was different this time. Then on January the 24th, reported cases were 1,354, now with 41 deaths. Here again, all in Wuhan and surrounding areas. China expands the full lockdown quarantine to additionally 11 cities in the surrounding area of Wuhan, with upwards of over 40 million people now involved in this lockdown quarantine. On January the 25th, Saturday, with 2,019 reported cases and 56 deaths, China expanded that quarantine to incorporate a total of 13 Chinese cities. Folks, never before has any government, let alone China, imposed a quarantine on a major city, let alone now 13 cities. It's huge. And as of this morning, on the 26th, China is considering instating a travel ban and transport ban in Beijing, China, their country's capital. And all of this is taking place during the largest single, most celebrated holiday in China, the Chinese New Year. It's the biggest one they have. Another reason that reinforces my initial belief was to impose these types of quarantines comes at an astronomical cost to not only these Chinese cities and the businesses and companies within them, but to the workers, as well as the Chinese economy itself. This will cost billions and billions of dollars in lost revenues, not to mention the costs by the Chinese government to impose and reinforce these quarantines. Think about that. And that's what I was thinking about. Why now? Why wasn't anything remotely similar done during the SARS outbreak, or the H1N1 flu epidemic, or the MERS outbreak? Why now? So y'all, we come to here. And it was because of another unprecedented action that strengthened my beliefs that this was something different this time. And here we have the U.S. working to evacuate American citizens from the epidemic-stricken Chinese city. The U.S. government, it is said, to be arranging a flight to the U.S. to evacuate Americans out of Wuhan. Shanghai, the U.S. government is working to evacuate American citizens by air from the epidemic-stricken Chinese city of Wuhan as soon as possible, according to people familiar with the effort. The operation comes as the death toll from a newly identified coronavirus that originated in Wuhan climbs above 40, and the number of confirmed infections tops 1,300, with many of the cases in and around central Chinese city of 11 million. The fast spread of the disease in recent days across China and around the world, including 2 cases in the U.S., have raised fears of a deadly contagion. Roughly 1,000 American citizens are thought to be in Wuhan, and the U.S. consulate there is reaching out to those it knows about to offer a seat on the plane. These people familiar with the matter said. Plane seats around 230 people and will include diplomats from the U.S. consulate as well as Americans and their families. Those evacuated will be responsible for the cost. The U.S. government won approval to conduct such an operation from the Chinese Foreign Ministry and other government agencies following negotiations in recent days, one of the people said. Scheduling issues for the charter. They schedule initial plans to fly on Sunday, but the operation is expected to go ahead, this person said. Now, this was decided upon on Saturday the 25th. Now, a lot of the information about the reported cases and death count is old. As we all know now, as of Sunday morning, reported cases are now at 2,000, deaths are now at 56. The U.S. Embassy in Beijing didn't immediately respond to the request for comment. China's Foreign Ministry couldn't immediately be reached for comment on the first day of the country's Lunar New Year holiday. The Boeing 767 jet will have U.S. medical personnel aboard to ensure that anyone affected by the newly identified and little understood coronavirus is cared for and doesn't spread it, one of these people said. In addition to U.S. diplomatic officers based in Wuhan, any available seats may be offered to non-U.S. citizens, including diplomats of other nations, this person said, adding that plans are still being formulated and could change. The U.S. plans to temporarily shut its Wuhan consulate, person added. Now this in and of itself, folks, is very significant, as are the full lockdown quarantines now affecting nearly 50 million people in 13 major Chinese cities. Something I want you to look at over here on the left, because this gives some updated news on the countries involved currently in the new coronavirus outbreak. We all know France had 3 reported cases, but now Germany has 3, Finland has 2, and Italy has 1. Australia now has 4 confirmed cases. There are cases in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, Malaysia, South Korea, Thailand, Nepal, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Singapore. There's also, I think, at least 4 cases now reported in Canada. So that makes for a total of 18 countries around the globe where the 2019 nCoV coronavirus has spread to in just 46 days. The first case being reported on December the 12th. And what makes that so different? Let's go back in time to the SARS coronavirus outbreak in 2002. The first case of which was reported in China on November the 27th, 2002. The first case in the U.S. was in February of 2003, and the first case in Canada was reported, confirmed, on February the 27th, 2003. Nearly 3 months had passed since the first reported case in China, whereas now the Wuhan coronavirus has infected 18 countries in as little as 46 days. It is spreading many times faster and getting stronger every day. In addition to the U.S., other countries with consulates in Wuhan include France, UK, and South Korea. France, which has several hundred citizens living in Wuhan, said on the website of its Chinese embassy that it's arranging a bus service for citizens of Wuhan who want to leave the city. Other European countries are considering similar arrangements, according to people familiar with the matter. South Korea is considering chartering a plane for its citizens, said a person familiar with the matter. Though Tokyo doesn't have a consulate in Wuhan, the Japanese business community there has asked embassy officials for an evacuation plan, according to another person familiar with this matter. So why is all of this so important? Now, the reason this is so important and significant of an action is here again. During the SARS coronavirus outbreak and the MERS coronavirus outbreak, no government, not the U.S. or any other, evacuated citizens or closed their embassies. But now here, just 46 days in to the outbreak of the 2019 nCoV coronavirus emanating from Wuhan, China, they made the decision to close the embassy and get their people out. So I've got to ask myself again, what now? Does the U.S. government know that they're not saying? Why is this so critical at this point in time? So now, as of Saturday, January the 25th, we have now 2 major actions that have taken place. One is the quarantine, full lockdown protocol, 13 major cities in China, encompassing over 41 to 50 million people. Like I said, why is it such a rush to get our embassy staff out of Wuhan and our citizens? To give you some perspective, let's take a look at the January flu deaths, which right here, this is from China Daily. January flu deaths almost equal to last year's total. Right down here I have highlighted more than 680,000 flu cases were reported in the mainland China in January, including 143 deaths, while the total of reported flu cases in January last year was only 274,000, including 56 deaths, the commission said. We're evacuating people from our embassy and our citizens from Wuhan with just 2,000 reported cases and 56 deaths. Well, hell, 608,000 flu cases have already been reported in mainland China, and 143 deaths have occurred. We didn't start evacuating anybody because of that outbreak, but we are evacuating our people now because of the 2019 nCoV coronavirus. This in and of itself, like I say, is something that never before in the history of these coronavirus outbreaks has been considered or enacted, not by the U.S. government or by any other government. So y'all, I know many who will watch this video will say things like, well, why just didn't you get to the point of what you found out and why you believe what you believe? Well, I thought it was extremely important to go over the timeline, the course of events, the actions taken that here again are unprecedented in the history of dealing with these coronaviruses in the past. I wanted all of you who are watching this video to understand why I not only initially believed that there was a possibility, as I stated in my first video, that this was possibly leaked from a lab, but as to why now, I have firmly decided that there is a high probability that yes indeed, this new coronavirus, something that our scientists have never seen before, unlike the SARS virus and the MERS virus, both of which were not contagious during the incubation period. In other words, they were only contagious once you were symptomatic. In other words, showing symptoms such as a fever. And that is why, when this all broke loose, airports in China, Wuhan, and other cities surrounding Wuhan were monitoring passengers boarding aircraft to see if they had a temperature. Likewise, those that were deplaning in other countries were checked to see if they had a temperature while they were deplaning so they could be allowed into the country. As we know of today, Sunday the 26th, with this, the 2019 nCoV coronavirus, it has been determined that it is infectious and can infect other people during the incubation process, which can take up to 14 days. Now, think about how many people flew out of Wuhan and surrounding cities before the full lockdown quarantines were put in place, which halted all air travel out of those cities. How many thousands of people have entered into other countries that, unknown to us at the time, may have well been contaminated and carrying the 2019 nCoV virus. So, as I was putting the previous video together, and what I alluded to was that I did have one report of the possibility that this new coronavirus from Wuhan leaked from a laboratory. And that one source was right here. You're looking at it now, from the Washington Times. And why I didn't run with it then? First of all, it was only one source. Now I have multiple sources. Secondly, it was from an American mainstream media outlet, which anybody living in America right now knows. Unfortunately, as it is, our mainstream media outlets are less than credible these days. So I just didn't want to trust releasing the information without further supporting evidence. But let's go through this article first, and we will continue. So here in the Washington Times, and this was reported on Friday, January the 24th. And as the title states, virus hit Wuhan has 2 laboratories linked to Chinese biowarfare program. Virology Institute there has China's only secure lab for studying deadly viruses. The deadly animal virus epidemic spreading globally may have originated in a Wuhan laboratory linked to China's covert biological weapons program, according to an Israeli biological warfare expert. Radio Free Asia this week rebroadcast a local Wuhan television report from 2015 showing China's most advanced virus research laboratory, known as the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Radio Free Asia reported. The laboratory is the only declared site in China capable of working with deadly viruses. Danny Soham, a former Israeli military intelligence officer who has studied Chinese biowarfare, said the institute is linked to Beijing's covert biological weapons program. Certain laboratories in the institute have probably been engaged in terms of research and development in Chinese biological weapons, at least collaterally, yet not as a principal facility of the Chinese biowarfare alignment, Mr. Soham told the Washington Times. Work on biological weapons is conducted as part of a dual civilian military research and is definitely covert, he said in an email. Mr. Soham holds a doctorate in medical microbiology. From 1970 to 1991, he was a senior analyst with the Israeli military intelligence for biological and chemical warfare in the Middle East and worldwide, holding the rank of lieutenant colonel. So yes, this was the article I had on Friday as I put the other video together. But here again, the credibility of the source and being single sourced, I didn't want to release it. But now, I believe it's imperative that I do. Secondly, I came across another article, and we'll flip over to it right now. Then on Saturday, as I continued to research and dig, I came up with this article from G News. Breaking news. China will admit coronavirus coming from its P4 lab. The Chinese Communist Party will finally admit that the real source of the coronavirus is from a lab in Wuhan, linked to its covert biological weapons programs. Here you can see where the Hunan seafood market was. 20 miles away was the Wuhan Institute of Virology. As the novel coronavirus originated in Wuhan is spreading to 10 countries, more and more people, including international bioweapons experts, are questioning its link to the Wuhan P4 lab, located about 20 miles from the seafood market where the first few cases of human infections were found. A reliable source told Miles Gu today that the Chinese Communist Party will admit to the public of an accidental leak of the lab-created virus P4 lab in Wuhan to put the blames on human errors. But the official announcement is still being finalized. Initially, the Chinese Communist propaganda machines were blaming the virus on wild animals like bats by showing many videos of people eating bats. In January 2018, a biosafety level 4 BSL-4 laboratory was built in the city of Wuhan, with focuses on control of emerging diseases and stores purified SARS and other types of viruses. It is supposed to act as a World Health Organization reference laboratory linked to similar labs around the world. Here is a Chinese video of the P4 lab. Took over 10 years to build. The remaining question is whether the Chinese Communist Party leaked the virus on purpose as a desperate attempt to stay in power. Now, this was the second source. But even on Saturday, as I released my other video, I didn't feel confident. Because this Miles Gu, well, he's sort of a character in and of himself. He is a Chinese billionaire. And he ran into some trouble with the Chinese Communist Party, which resulted in him leaving the country, fleeing the country, and thereby the Communist Party did freeze his assets. And now he's basically in exile. And he does and has created some controversy of his own. So even though this coincides with what I believed, it still wasn't enough. The next article was enough to go ahead and let these articles come out and share them with all of you today. This is the third source, an article that I found very early this morning, Sunday morning, around 3 a.m. And it's from Behold Israel. And its title is Israeli Biological Warfare Expert Connects China's Wuhan Virus to Covert Biological Warfare Laboratory. An Israeli biological warfare expert is linking China's deadly Wuhan virus to China's covert biological warfare laboratories. It is believed that the Wuhan Institute of Virology is where the disease may have originated. An Israeli biological warfare expert by the name of Danny Shoham, who is now with the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies at the Bar Ilan University in Israel, believes that the deadly Wuhan virus is likely connected to one of China's covert biological warfare laboratories, in this case, the Wuhan Institute of Virology. While there is a lot of speculation at this point, there are several truths that validate his concern, Shoham stated. Certain laboratories in the Institute have probably been engaged in terms of research and development in Chinese biological weapons, at least collaterally, yet not as a principal facility of the Chinese biowarfare alignment. Danny Shoham was a lieutenant colonel and senior analyst with the Israeli military intelligence for biological and chemical warfare. He unquestionably states that biological tests that are run there in these laboratories are convert. In addition to his suspicions, the U.S. State Department, and here comes in the United States, and may well be why they are evacuating the embassy, all of its personnel, and or all U.S. citizens that wish to leave. Here it states, the U.S. State Department believes that China has been partaking in covert biological warfare operations as well, though China is denying any rumors of involvement. The State Department issued a report in 2019 stating that information indicates that the People's Republic of China engaged during the reporting period in biological activities with potential dual-use applications, which raises concerns regarding its compliance with the BWC, the report said. Adding that the United States suspects China failed to eliminate its biological warfare program is required by the treaty, and that's what the BWC is. It's a bioweapons compact treaty between nations across the globe, banning the development and deployment of biological weapons on Earth. The United States has compliance concerns with respect to the Chinese military medical institutions' toxin research and development because of the potential dual-use applications and their potential as a biological threat. Thus far, the virus has killed at least 41 people, and that number likely to rise, as we know it has, up to 56 as of this morning, and spread to 9 other countries, which now we know is over 18, and of course including the United States. So there you have it. the U.S. knew. There you have it, folks. Our U.S. government had known that there was a possibility, if not high probability, that the new 2019 nCoV coronavirus originated in a Wuhan Virology Laboratory conducting biological warfare research. And it was because of that knowledge is why they took the unprecedented action to evacuate embassy staff, close our embassy, and offer evacuation to any and all American citizens in Wuhan, China. This would also explain why the Chinese government took the action, unprecedented in modern history, to enact full lockdown quarantine protocol on a major city of 11 million, to include 12 other surrounding cities with a total population of 41 to 50 million people. We've never seen this before in the history of dealing with any viruses, to include influenza viruses, Ebola, or coronaviruses such as SARS or MERS. Now it all makes sense, doesn't it? That's why it was so important to put the timeline together, the events that took place, and the actions taken place by the governments so early on in the course of this coronavirus outbreak. Now, all three of these articles allowed me to understand why the Chinese government took the unprecedented actions they did to fully lock down one of their largest cities, Wuhan, with a population of 11 million, as well as 12 other surrounding cities that would affect upwards of 50 million of the Chinese people. But the fact that these last 6 sentences wrapped the ribbon around the package, because it was because of these last 6 sentences that gave me the information of why our U.S. government would all of a sudden decide to shut our embassy down in Wuhan and evacuate all of its personnel, as well as all 1,000 current U.S. citizens living in Wuhan. Right here. The U.S. State Department knew. They issued a report in 2019. This is what made it so imperative to get them out as soon as possible. They know this, whether it escaped some type of accident, this particular coronavirus, which I've already reported, is new and has been unseen by scientists to date. They haven't seen anything like it before. It's brand new. This made it all come together. Maybe you'll come to that same conclusion. Now, some of you will say, well, 2,000 reported cases as of today, Sunday, and 56 deaths is statistically unimportant when it comes to China with a population of 1.4 billion people. And I'm with you. Here again, that makes no sense at all. Statistically, it's infinitesimal. It doesn't matter. But then again, that being said, China imposed full lockdown quarantines on 13 cities. The United States and other governments are closing their embassies, evacuating their personnel, as well as the citizens of their nation. It had to be much more than just a coronavirus similar to the SARS or MERS coronaviruses. And it appears it is much more. Now others will say, considering the mortality rate of this coronavirus is so low, currently it's at 2.8%. That's nothing in comparison to SARS, which was 9.8%, and MERS, which was nearly 30%. Why is this significant? Well, let's say, this is where I'm going to step out on a limb I might not come back from, personally. If you were to develop a covert biological weapon, you see, you wouldn't want it to immediately kill off its intended target or have a mass initial response. In other words, a rapid and high mortality rate. And the reason you wouldn't want that is because that could be too readily traced back to the country of origin and deployment. What you do want is a biological weapon system that is stealthy. One that can be released into the general targeted population that can quietly infect a vast majority of that population without them ever even knowing that they were being infected. And herein lies the difference with this 2019 nCoV coronavirus. Unlike SARS and MERS, this virus has been proven to be infectious now during the incubation stage, which can be as long as 14 days without showing any symptoms. So once a person has been infected with it, they're going to go about their normal daily routine. They're going to interact with people in their daily personal lives, their work lives, entertainment, shopping, restaurants, what have you. They don't even know they're infected. All the while infecting every person they come in close contact with. Now you might say, well, they got to be sneezing and coughing. No, they don't. Once you are infected by a virus, the pure simple fact that you are breathing and your breath goes out into your close proximity environment, your breath deposits this virus, which can live now up to 8 days, on surfaces all around you, as well as people that are within close proximity to you, and that being 6 feet or less. Think about that. A stealthy virus is the ultimate biological weapon. Secondly, you want biological contagion, in this case virological coronavirus, to have the ability to mutate. Now the SARS virus had that ability to mutate, and it did mutate. Fortunately for the planet, it mutated into something that was no longer deadly. But the SARS virus wasn't designed or developed as a biological weapon. So since we're sitting here thinking hypothetically, let us say we were to take the SARS virus, which originated in a certain species of bats. It was the horseshoe bat, which are mammals. And we wanted to see what would happen if we took that virus that originated in bats and we injected it into another entirely different species. Not a mammal species, but a reptilian species. Let us say it was a snake, to see just what would happen and let it develop. Now, as I've already showed you in these articles, the laboratory in Wuhan was set up also to be a depository for pure SARS virus. So the virus is available. So hypothetically thinking, we took this, like I said, injected it in the snake, see what would happen. And then, once the virus mutated in the snakes, we extracted. Did it have the desired trait of not only mutation, but the most desirable trait of a biological weapon, and that is targeted, programmed mutation? In other words, rather than taking it on chance that the virus would mutate to a far more infectious and deadly strain, it was designed to, after a certain period of time, to mutate, to become far more infectious and far more deadly. Hypothetically thinking, that is. Wouldn't that be the ultimate stealthy biological weapon? And of course, this is all conjecture, but it is possible. And with what I have said, wouldn't that simple fact of knowing that not only it had the potential to infect people without the carrier knowing they were infected, or those coming in contact with the carrier knowing they were being infected for a period up to 14 days, and then the second desirable trait of having the ability to mutate to far more infectious and deadly strain, wouldn't that be enough to prompt the Chinese government to take the unprecedented action to do full lockdown quarantines on the major city of Hunan of 11 million and 12 other surrounding cities affecting 50 million people, as well as considering travel and transport bans to and out of Beijing, China's capital? Wouldn't that make sense? Wouldn't it make sense even if the United States State Department only thought this was a possibility? Wouldn't it make sense how this information would make it extremely urgent to evacuate our embassy personnel and our citizens and share that information with other governments so they could take those same precautions? Just saying. But folks, I don't want to scare you. I don't want to panic anybody. The whole purpose of this video, and especially this last part, has all been hypothetical. And hopefully that's enough to keep me out of personal trouble. I pray it is. This video and its contents are meant to keep you informed on the latest developing information regarding the 2019 nCoV coronavirus, so you can make the appropriate plans to prepare to safeguard yourself, your family, your friends, and your loved ones, wherever they may be. That is the sum total purpose of the video and the information contained in it. I do hope, if you think this video has some substance and some value, that you will share it with your family, your friends, your loved ones. And in doing so, maybe they will take the precautions necessary to ensure that they remain uninfected and healthy. I do hope you see now why I recommend not surgical masks, not N95, but I am recommending full face, full facial seal respirators that are antiviral, or at least that they are capable of filtering out gases. Any face mask that is capable of filtering out gases, such as a military grade gas mask, or even those commercially available that can filter out commercial organic or inorganic gases, will suit the purpose. Now, I cannot personally recommend what mask for you to buy. That's something you're going to have to do the research, and you're going to have to make a decision, because I'm not going to be responsible for you and your family. The only thing I can do is make the appropriate decisions and purchases for me and my family. So y'all, I don't have a lot more than that. You just can watch the video, digest the information, digest my hypothesis here at the end, and make the appropriate decisions in your life and those you love. And I hope it helps. By all means, like I said, share it with all those that you will think will benefit from it. And may God bless us all in the coming days. And as always, y'all, I want all of you to take care out there. Stay safe. Take the precautions that you deem fit. I'm going to edit this video and get it out immediately. Treat it as you wish. Later on.